وصحبه أفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم أجر الحق على قلوبنا وألسنتنا وارزقنا الإخلاص في كل قول وعمل. Today, inshallah, we continue with verse 46 of Surah Al-An'am. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قل أرأيتم إن أخذ الله سمعكم وأبصاركم وختم على قلوبكم من إله غير الله يأتيكم به انظر كيف نصرف الآيات ثم هم يصدفون. Say, O Muhammad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, says, say, O Muhammad, tell me, if Allah takes away your hearing, your sight, and sets a seal on your hearts, which God other than Allah can bring these back to you? See how we put forth our verses in various forms, yet still they turn away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now in these sets of verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding. First of all, everything that is coming in the Quran, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is ordered to pass it on to us. Right? Meaning what? Every single thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as a part of the wahy, of the revelation, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam transmits it to us, sends it to us, gives it to us. Right? Yet in some of these verses, you still see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam what? Say, قل. Say Muhammad. He's going to say anyways. But there's just to emphasize. So that's one thing. Second, I know it's early today and it's a Monday, but do you remember what's the theme so far of this surah? Surah Al-An'am. What is the common or main theme that we talked about from the very beginning about Surah Al-An'am? Tawheed. Tawheed. I always try to remind you of the surah, of the theme, because you're always going to see this being weaved in throughout the whole entire surah. You find a common thread. Sometimes it's in every single verse. Sometimes it's within a set of verses. Right? But I want you to think about it from the theme of Tawheed. That's coming, verses coming to say, La ilaha illallah. Tawheed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here poses this in a form of question. It says, O Muhammad, tell them. Or, more accurately, ask them. Ask them about what? So it's قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ. أَرَأَيْتُمْ is a word. In Arabic, ra'a is to see. But it also means, it doesn't have to be seeing, meaning that you have to see with your own eyes. But sometimes even you say it in English, right? Did you see what happened last night? That doesn't mean you have to actually have seen it, but I'm informing you of something that might have happened. And subhanAllah, Allah uses the word أَرَأَيْتُمْ. It says, in a form sometimes, even in things that you have not seen, we said physically with the eye. But because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us of it, we're believers, our belief in Allah's revelation is even more firm than our seeing it by our own eyes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as people who are believers, if Allah says, we believe it 100%. Even more than your own eyes. You might have seen something. You believe in Allah's revelation more than what you have seen with your own eyes. قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is commanded to say, oh, ask them, meaning those who did not believe. Because all of the verses becoming before that is forms of proofs of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The resurrection, the prophecy of the prophets and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. All of it are coming to prove that there's only one God, wahdaniyya, that is in charge of all of this, is in control of all of this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala poses a question. And this is also a beautiful way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran comes with some verses, we're saying like ikhbar, to inform. Some of it, He's informing us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not asking a question to know. We ask questions to know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking a question, He said, لِلتَّقْرِير, to confirm, but through them. Meaning what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking a question. He says, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ سَمْعَكُمْ وَأَبْصَارَكُمْ وَخَتَمَ عَلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ. He says, see, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away your hearing, your sight, whether it's or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seals your heart. In all of these three, whether it's actually taking, meaning to take away is to kind of, you have this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, and you and I, the ni'mah, the bounty of being able to see, being able to hear, being able to have these hearts. And then the word hearts in the Arabic language, a lot of times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Arabs used to use it this way as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referring to it in the Quran, خَتَمَ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِكُمْ, that means you don't understand that. Or it can be a sealing of the heart, that means you're not accepting the guidance, right? But al-qalb is also a way for us to, the meaning of the intellect, the way do you understand that. Okay? لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. In other verses, it says they have hearts, they don't understand with it. Meaning what? Because it's actually referring a lot of times to the intellect, to our thinking. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking them the question, but it's a question for them to confirm. So I said, if I come and say, I gave you $10 yesterday, that's informing, right? And this information, if I say that, the person who I'm telling you I gave you $10, they can say yes or no, or they can just stay silent, right? They didn't confirm, they didn't negate. But if I come and say, didn't I give you $10? Now you're in a position to say what? I have to think about it. And if you say yes, now you're confirming it. This is even more confirmation from you. Didn't I do that for you? Didn't I do this for you? Didn't I do that for you? And now you're thinking, it's like that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ, don't you see that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away these bounties that He has given you, the sam'a, the hearing, the basar, the seeing, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heals your heart from understanding, meaning they don't have this ability to the intellect. مَنْ إِلَهٌ غَيْرُ اللَّهِ يَأْتِيكُمْ بِهِ. Who else other than Allah can bring you that back? Now we're waiting for the answer. Allah asked the question, and these people, the disbelievers, know exactly what the answer. You and I will know exactly what the answer is. Allah's giving us the question, so He said we contemplate. And others, the believers and disbelievers in this case, before in the time of Prophet ﷺ, would contemplate, because no one else, they knew, even the disbelievers at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they never negated that there's God. They never negated that Allah is the creator. Never negated that. They said just we're associating others with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they never associated or given this ability to create other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They never said that our asnam, our idols or those that we worship are able to create. So they know that for a fact. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting them in, basically is making them contemplate, think, who else? Who else, if Allah were to take His bounty back, who else can give you that? Now they know the answer, they know how to answer, they exactly know it in their heart. So you would assume at that point, now that you know it, now that you confirmed it your own way, Allah asked you, you confirmed it, you said yes, we know who else, who gave it to it. It's Allah, and no one else can bring it back except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You would expect what? You say, Amanna billah, we believe. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? انظر كيف نصرف الآيات ثم هم يصدفون. Look, O Muhammad, how we نصرف is, that means we diversify the ayat, the signs. Meaning that wasn't one single type of reminder. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes bring glad tidings. Sometimes give reminders of punishment. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them, look at the skies around you. Look at the creation around you. Look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created all of this. So it's a different reminder. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? Look at the people before you. So stories of those become different ways and forms of shapes of reminders, of ayat, of signs. All of these, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also in this, subhanAllah, that's also out of the utmost mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people, sometimes we see that amongst ourselves. Say someone who is a visual person. They need a visual example for them to see things. Sometimes someone who is more, again, listen to things, understand it. Someone, they have to experience things too. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala diversified, made His signs, all of them different, in different ways, in various ways, so it can address every single person's intellect. Nobody has an excuse. I'm a visual person. Here's Allah draws an example for you in the Quran. Draws meaning with words. right? I'm a person who likes history. Oh, lessons from history. I'm a person who can think about it. I want to look at this guy. Every single type of sign, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided. And after all of this, it said the expectation, it said what? Now we believe. No. انظر كيف نصرف الآيات ثم هم يصدفون. But after all of these, after them confirming, after them seeing the various type of signs, still they turn away. They reject. Subhanallah. After all of this, yes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us among those who said, who see His signs, who see His lessons, and contemplate and think about it, internalize it, act upon it. Because sometimes when you look at this, you say, subhanallah, what else? What else? Except that they just become blind. Blind, not the actual, they can see with their own eyes, but they can't see the signs anymore. Just the blindness, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from this type of blindness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next verse, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَتَاكُمْ عَذَابُ اللَّهِ بَغْدَةً أَوْ جَهْرَةً هَلْ يُهْلَكُ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. 47. It says, say, O Muhammad, again, the same type of expression. Say, O Muhammad, ask them again, don't you see or imagine, tell me, if the punishment of Allah comes upon you, whether suddenly or openly, shall any people be destroyed except the unjust? It said in another, translation, it says, imagine if Allah's punishment were to overwhelm you, with or without warning, who would be destroyed other than the wrongdoers? That's a question now. The first one was for them to confirm, right? This one is now for them to heed. Now it's a warning. Now it's not a matter of confirmation. This is a matter of warning. It's a question in the form of what? Be careful. Because those who are going to be really destroyed are what? Are the wrongdoers. You have already rejected the signs. So be careful. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? Says, say, O Muhammad, let them say, imagine, see, look, contemplate on your own means. If the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in atakum adhabullahi baghtatan aw jahratan. These are two words I want to end up with, inshallah. Baghtatan aw jahratan. Yesterday we talked about this word baghta. Baghta meaning to come all of a sudden. We said, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those people that rejected, if you remember from yesterday, said people rejected. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them the calamities, giving them the tests, they still rejected instead of going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a form of punishment, gives them everything. Meaning what? Increases them. Right? So raises them, gives them so much, everything they want. Now at the top of the world, they think that there's nothing more. مَنْ أَشَدُّ مِنَّا قُوَّةً, who's stronger than us? And all of a sudden Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes them. All of a sudden. No warnings. That's a huge form of punishment. Now you're on top of the world and all of a sudden, gone, destroyed. So that's baghta. That means all of a sudden. The opposite of it, or in this verse, it's not the linguistic opposite, but in this verse, the contrast is coming with jahra. Jahra is, when you say jahra, that means like out loud. But jahra in that sense means that there were signs and warnings before the punishment comes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, see, if the punishment of Allah comes, whether this punishment comes all of a sudden, or this punishment comes after there's some warnings that came before it. What's going to happen? هَلْ يُهْلَكُ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. That means those who are going to be destroyed are the wrongdoers. But these two words are extremely important to understand. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even in the punishment, it diversified. He said what? Baghta, that means comes all of a sudden. That tells them, makes them think, if you, or those who you worship, or those who you stand by, or those who you seek protection from, if these were true gods, or these are people even of power or knowledge, shouldn't they know that there's a punishment coming? The fact that the punishment comes baghta, all of a sudden, with no warning, that means whoever they associate with other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have the knowledge, does not have the ability, does not have the intelligence, meaning intelligence from gathering information. They didn't have a special warning before. All of a sudden, they're sitting there, nothing, expecting nothing, and all of a sudden, boom, punishment comes. That means those who they associate with, they rely on other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have no knowledge, have no clue, that the punishment is coming. But someone might come and say, oh, if I knew about this punishment, I might have, what? I might have taken heed. Not have taken heed, but I mean protected myself. If we knew about the punishment, right, we could have done something about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says no. Whether you know it or you do not knowing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when a punishment, when it comes, it comes. So even if we give you the signs before, jahratan, even if we give you the signs before, you still would not be able to push away the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's also what? A condemnation for their own gods, the people they rely on, and so forth. Why? Now, you have the knowledge. Allah given you signs. We've seen this with some other verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them. It says, تَمَتَّعُوا فِي دَارِكُمْ ثَلَاثَةَ أَيَّامٍ, right? So it said, no, the punishment is coming in 3 days. Wait. Hold on, 3 days, the punishment is coming. فَلَمَّا رَأَوْهُ عَارِضًا مُسْتَقْبِلَ أَوْدِيَتِهِمْ قَالُوا هَذَا عَارِضٌ مُمْطِرٌ. In other signs, they've seen signs that are coming, that the storm is coming, and the clouds are coming, the destruction is coming. They said, oh no, this is not a big deal. We've seen the sign. This is just some clouds that are going to come and give us some rain. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them signs. In both cases, they are destroyed. فَهَلْ يُهْلَكُ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. This is a question as a form of, we said, a form of warning. It says, be careful, when this punishment comes, whether all of a sudden or with some signs before it, those who are going to be destroyed are those who are the wrongdoers. And this is where I'm going to end. We know sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might send a destruction. This is a glad tiding for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all the believers as well. That we've seen it with all of the stories of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves the believers. Whether it's Qawm Lut, whether it's Qawm Nuh, whether it's the people of Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved them. Destroyed the others and saved them. So this is a sign. It says, be careful when the punishment comes, only the wrongdoers will be punished. Only the wrongdoers will be destroyed. But we've seen some other signs, maybe some other places where people who are believers, right, a destruction comes and they're taken as well. So the scholars say something that is beautiful. The wrongdoers, they don't believe in their hereafter. So when the destruction comes, true destruction comes. Meaning what? In their calculations and in reality, there's nothing afterwards in their minds. What's coming afterwards is complete punishment. It's adhab al-akhirah. Whereas the believers, those who are good doers, even if they are destroyed as a part of the earthly destruction, they go to a better place. Right? So in that case, they're not really destroyed. They're actually taken from this dunya, from this life, to the hereafter, which is even better. So in both cases, whether this punishment comes and takes people, sometimes it said punishment comes and there are people who are believers in a city that was punished or destroyed. They have a different abode than those who are wrongdoers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from His punishment in this life and the hereafter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who live as believers, true believers in this life, and meet Him as true believers in the hereafter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our hearts with His love, the love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the love of His verses, the understanding of His verses. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clean our hearts from any envy, from any wrongdoing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who follow in the footsteps of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this dunya, and then follow in His footsteps on the Day of Judgment, and follow His footsteps all the way to Jannah. Make us as His companions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease the difficulties of all those passing through difficulty, our brothers and sisters around the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease it for them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who reach Ramadan and get the best out of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the reward of Ramadan even if we don't reach it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us this beautiful, shiny heart, clean from any envy, from any misgivings, from any bad deeds.